The following will be more than just a review of these rare Chukka boots which were made by Parkhurst. That's because I won't just be sharing my experience of how they fit and feel. I'm going to do a detailed comparison of the mahogany leather with other leathers. You'll also hear about insights on boot making and design I got from Andrew Savisco. That's right, Andrew, the founder and main man behind Parkhurst. I got in contact with him and we talked about these boots which are called the Colvin. We also talked about boot and last design and possible new makeups in the future. To begin, the Parkhurst Colvin is a rare Chukka boot because Parkhurst will discontinue making Chukka boots. What I have here is one of the last pairs ever made during the final production run, and there have only ever been a few production runs. Andrew explained the whole reason behind this model was for it to be more comfortable, hence why it has a cushioned leather insert. The aim was to make something that was easy on and off, having just 2 eyelets and looked aesthetically pleasing on a uniform plane on the flat studded rubber outsole. However, he said the customers who bought them had divisive opinions. Either they loved them or hated them. I noticed this kind of polarization with Chukka boots in general. It seems there's a tendency for some boot aficionados that lean more towards strictly heritage style to stray away from short ankle-high boots and only favor higher shaft boots, mostly out of aesthetic preference. Then those more interested in broader classic men's style have no issue with the short and simple profile, and may even prefer it as a more lightweight, sportier look. The Colvin is built on the 602M last, which I already covered in detail during my review of the Parkhurst Niagara. So in short, they fit good in the toe and heel area, but I still would prefer a more aggressive taper along the sides towards the middle. The instep is reasonably secure for having only 2 eyelets. These are blind eyelets, meaning the metal hardware is only visible from the inside and not the outside. Mostly just a cosmetic difference. If Andrew were to do a Chukka again, he said it would likely have 3 eyelets with external hardware, and possibly keep the internal heel counter and counter cover. Based on my experience, this would likely lead to a more secure fit, with more and closer contact points at key areas of the foot. Shockingly, I learned the 602M last will likely be retired and be replaced by the 618 last. Also, surprisingly, Andrew has watched some of my videos and said, the 618 is exactly what I want from the sounds of it. He explained the midfoot and heel are both really tapered and cut in, while still remaining wider at the ball and toe box. We shared similar thoughts in that there are lots of fit points, but the end goal is to fit most people with something that works. He also built on my comments from my Parkhurst Niagara review about boot foundation and how I mentioned the mid and outsole can be harder and higher impact, especially when walking on concrete. He said having a flat, rubber-studded sole can be hard on your feet, paired with all the other leather and metal, so putting in the insert was supposed to help reduce the hard feeling and make walking on concrete surfaces easier. The insert is glued on top of the regular Vegtan Benz leather insole. I also agreed with his point when he said, in hindsight, I think I would have rather left it loose and left it up to the customer to keep it in or take it out. That perhaps would have provided more flexibility. I then asked and learned that the insert is a strip of cushioning foam that's used in other boots and orthotic lines of footwear that the factory has produced for. They split the thickness so it's a bit thinner to accommodate the depth of the last. On top of that, the glue leather lining, which is a veg-tan bovine lining leather. It is quite comfortable and does noticeably reduce impact. So it does make the Colvin more comfortable in terms of impact reduction when compared to my experience with the Niagara, which just has the veg-tan leather insole without the cushioned insert on top of it. When new, the insert noticeably reduced volume in the boot, and at first I was concerned because my toes and instep were brought up just a bit too high. As was written on the store page, this footbed build can be helpful for those with low volume feet, while still fitting regular volume feet just fine. I can't really speak to how this helps lower volume feet fit better, because I have regular volume feet. Andrew explained the insert would flatten as the boots broke in, and the extra volume wouldn't be an issue later. I trusted him, and he was largely correct. The insert was pushed down and shaped to my foot over time, similar to a regular mid and insole breaking in. However, there's still naturally a bit of extra room taken up. No discomfort or crammed toes, but the ability to remove the insert would have been appreciated. Since it's glued on, ripping it out would create some damage and make a mess. Through this experience, I can confirm the renowned customer service Andrew provides for Parkhurst by himself. Communication about the insert and my later questions for making this review were answered quickly with clear detail. Also, for reference, I sized just like the Parkhurst Niagara and went half a size down from my Brannock measurement. On a related note, I asked Andrew about using softer soles, like wedge soles, and he told me he would love to do wedge soles or a softer sole. However, he said, but as soon as people hear about it being softer/easier on the feet, or experience that it makes the boots weigh next to nothing, my concern is that there will be the perception of lesser quality. He went on to say that sometimes people assume that just because something weighs less than a comparable product, that the product is inferior or lesser quality. I think, as customers, we need to accept that's the reality. Softer and lighter soles are generally less durable but more comfortable. Wearing down faster than harder rubber can be a worthwhile trade-off for the extra shock absorption, and it's not like softer soles fall apart immediately. They just don't hold up as long as soles that are closer to tire consistency. Andrew gave an interesting analogy about carbon fiber, like what is used on sports cars. It's super lightweight, but it's strong. If Parkhurst ever does use a softer, lighter sole, it would be interesting to see what it is. Something off the shelf or something proprietary. I shared my thoughts on plain suede, especially dark brown and charcoal gray, to which Andrew seemed quite receptive. I just thought a Capto boot in either one of those colors, without any oils or waxes, would be highly versatile, both style and function-wise, especially if low-contrast stitching was used, similar to the color of the upper and welt. Andrew told me one big thing he gets asked if he's doing rough-out or suede without oil or wax is that people seem to want them for water resistance. That's why he says he hasn't run any bare leathers without oils or waxes in them. He made a good point about there being some sort of stigma around it within the community, quite accurately describing it as an incredible leather, used to make some cool designs, remarking that waxy commander after all is suede, and that article has produced many different aesthetics while being able to perform too. He continued by saying, I would love to run a few suede boots. Indeed, my Viberg Navy boots in earth chamois could be slightly more versatile style-wise, and still be quite tough if they were just dark charcoal gray suede and not oiled rough-out. As for the Colvin's upper, it's quite similar to Chrome XL in look and feel. From what I understand, it's made from a similar process of being saturated with oils and waxes, so it's very low maintenance. Just some light brushing and conditioning once in a while is fine. Calling it mahogany leather was a great choice, It really does look like it. It has a reddish-brown hue with orange undertones, giving it a color scheme similar to some reddish-orange bricks, and of course mahogany wood under certain lighting conditions. This is very apparent in direct sunlight. The red and brown show more strongly when it's a dark day. The store page images do a decent job capturing this dynamic appearance from brown, orange, and red. Now I'll compare leathers indoors. This is actually under bright white LED lights, but even then, because it's inside, differences will be more subtle, maybe even less distinct than you'd see on a gloomy overcast day outdoors. First up for comparison is the Parkhurst Niagara in weathered henna leather, which was the previous boot I reviewed. At the same time, you can see how two different types of boots built on the same last stack up against each other, as well as how the leather rubber layers making up the mid and outsole are the same. Now on the right side, I have a Grantstone Chelsea boot made from brown Chrome XL, which is a similar brown to the Niagara boot on the left, and has a more similar texture to the mahogany upper of the Colvin compared to the weathered henna leather upper of the Niagara. Now replace the Niagara with a Color 8 Chrome XL boot, the Grantstone Diesel model. It brings out the color contrast of red against orange against brown. With this setup, we can see even more clearly how similar mahogany's texture is in between two CXL leathers of different colors. Then with this closer view, note how the creasing characteristics are quite similar, except against the Chelsea boot, which has much less creasing. I already explained why that's the case during its review a few months ago. Next comes a contrasting look with a black leather wallet. Now bring in some green with the Citizen Garrison's green dial and olive green leather strap. This watch was reviewed in my last video. After that, here's a look at the reddish brown tones of this heavily aged Color 8 shell cordovan strap that I put on my Hamilton bronze khaki mechanical watch, the first watch I ever reviewed. Now I'll bring in a flashlight to highlight those differences better under artificial lighting. Also brightening things up is this medium brown leather NATO strap. For a difference in texture more so than color, here's a watch strap made from brown waxed flesh from the Horween tannery. You'll see this watch band again in an upcoming review of an interesting bronze watch. Using the flashlight again, we can better highlight this seamless transition from those red, orange, and brown tones onto a plain dark brown leather on the Viberg service boot, the only boot in this video I haven't reviewed yet. Stay tuned, it will come out eventually. I bring it in here to show the subtle difference of its mostly veg tan makeup with some chrome tanning at the end. At the same time, we can see 4 different styles of boots, and how the two Parkhurst 602M last boots look beside the slimmer Grantstone last called the UK last with the Chelsea boot. As well as the Viberg 2030 last with the Capto boot. Then switch it back up with a full side profile of both Parkhurst boots. This brings out more similarities from the 602M last silhouette of these two drastically different types and styles of boots. Now for the Chelsea boot. Then the plain toe service boot with the Color 8 CXL Grantstone diesel boot. These shots clearly bring out the difference with the red and orange tones, yet still show some commonalities with shared brown undertones. I hope you enjoyed the comparison and learned something from the review. Thanks for watching and the support.